Welcome back to the channel. Our 2019 GMC Sierra Denali is all painted up and ready to be put back together. So, let's get started. First, let's start putting our doors back together. We'll put on our outside door handle and the driver's door. Put the driver's door together first. That way our window switches are in there and we can use all the rest of our windows. So we'll slide the gasket in, and we'll slide the handle in the front, and it locks into the tab on the inside and slides forward, but you have to push that tab out a little bit, so you do that from the inside. Once it catches, you slide it forward, throw the cap on the back, tighten up the screw, put the little cap on to cover up the hole. Now we're going to unbolt the window glass. We need to take the glass out for a couple reasons. The first is we just pulled that weather stripping out so that they could paint it, and it doesn't quite go in the same way. And we're also changing this glass because when the mirror came back and slapped the door, it shattered the glass. The glass actually scratched the door glass. So there's a bunch of gouges all over the outside of it. So we're going to put a new one in. Actually a used one. Remember that mistake truck? Well, I had a good glass left over. So we're going to use that. Save a couple bucks. So we'll slide the window channel down in there. Start in the back corner, there's a little alignment tab. Clip it all in all the way around. Work our way up to the front. And now we can slide our glass in. Goes in on the outside. Tilt it all the way forward, then slide it down, then rotate it back. And we'll drop it down into the regulator. Put our regulator all the way up. Now we can tighten up the clamps on the regulator. Put the little cap back in and cover it up. Now we can put our belt molding on. Brand new from GM. If you ever lost a battle with the wrapping paper tubes, try one of these. It's like the assault tubes of tubes. They are banned in California though. Pull it out of the wrapper and snap it on. Make sure it clips into all the tabs. Make sure the bolt at the back is lined up. And screw it in. Now we can put on the brand new mirror. Believe it or not, they were cheaper than the used ones I was finding. Screw the nuts on. Pull the wiring harness all the way through. Lock the grommet in. And then we'll tighten down the mirror. Snap the wiring harness in for the mirror and plug it in. Then we can put our window sweep in. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, so we're going to end up taking it back out. I haven't put enough of these doors together yet. One of these days I'll get it right. So now I'll put the trim across the top on. Clip it around the pinch weld on the outside. Then push the Christmas trees in on each end. And we gotta peel the gasket out from underneath it on the outside. That gasket is actually supposed to go on last, but because I had to put all the little clips back in it the hard way, I wanted to do it when there wasn't other things in my way, so that's what I did. Just means you gotta peel it out from underneath that trim piece. Now we can pull our speaker out and the grab handle bracket so we can pull down the water barrier to get some wax down in that bottom door seam. I tried kicking my rust proofing habit, but it looks like we're back to step 1 of the 12-step program. So we'll get a good coating in there. Let it run down in that seam. And we'll put our water barrier back up. Put our grab handle bracket back on. Tighten it down. Put the bottom tab in for the speaker. Put the bolt in the top. Then we need to pull the clips out for the top of the door panel. These go underneath the window sweep. And that's why I got a little ahead of myself putting that window sweep on. We'll pop the little clips out of there. Pull our window sweep back up. And slide our little clips on. Now we can plug in the wiring harness for our door panel. Plug in our handle. Line up the door lock. Push our door panel on. With our belt molding installation tool, because it's all I had handy. Now we can tighten up all the screws. We got that hidden one behind this trim panel here, a couple on the bottom, a couple on the grab handle, and one behind the door handle. Then we can put our little caps behind the door handle and in the grab handle. And we'll put the little cover back on. And probably forget that screw is in there on the next one. And we got to pull our passenger door apart. So we'll take our window out first. This window is fine. We're just taking it out so we can get our weather stripping back in there. Or window channel, whatever you want to call it. Try not to drop the glass. It was good when I started. Hopefully it'll be good when I'm done. Put our gasket in for our outside door handle. Slide the handle in. Push the lever from the inside so that the handle will clip in. And put the cap on. Tighten it up. Slide our belt molding on there. They actually clip in a little bit easier when a glass isn't in there. So we'll put this on now. Tighten up the screw in the back. And put our mirror back on. Tighten down our mirror. Clip in our wiring harness. And we can start running our window channel back down in there. I do put the door together before I put the wax in there. That way you're not getting your hand in all the wax. In case you get it somewhere it's not supposed to be. Won't hurt anything, but it makes a mess. So we'll start in that back corner where the alignment tab is and work our way around. Then we pull our water barrier down and our speaker out so we can get in there and wax this door. I mean, it only makes sense to do it since I have the doors apart anyway. I mean, it's only excessive if I actually took a door apart that I didn't have to or something. But it takes a couple minutes, so why not? Save me a lot of headache later when the truck's not rusting out. Now we can put our water barrier back up. Put our speaker back in. Bolt our grab handle bracket back on. And we can drop our door glass in. Slide it down from the outside. Try not to scratch it. We don't want to upset the painting gnomes. They did a good job matching the paint, despite the fact that some people say you have to paint the entire vehicle when it's pearl. You don't. So we'll drop our glass down into the regulator. Then we'll put the trimmer on the top of the window opening. This is also easier to do when the window's down. Not a fan of these. I wish they'd find a better way to put them on there. Plug in our door panel. Put our window back up. Tighten the clamps on the regulator to our window. Tighten up our window channel in the back. I had to put the trim piece that goes up in the front. It covers up the door gap. You're actually supposed to put it on the door when the door is off and then put the door on. But that's just extra work taking the door off, so we're going to struggle. It has to go behind both hinges, and there's not a whole lot of room in there. It is oddly shaped, so you got to kind of feed it through. Then once it's in there, just push in the little Christmas trees, get it to stay in. Sometimes you have to use a screwdriver, or aka chisel, because my fingers aren't long enough. So now we'll plug in our door panel, reconnect the handle, set it up there, and snap it in. Put all our screws back in. And put all the caps back on. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of working on doors. So we're going to do something else. We'll put the hood back together. Snap in the vent in the front. Then we open up the hood. We'll tighten up the bolts or nuts to go in the bottom. We'll set our hood insulation up there. Put the retainers back in it. There's one in the center, it's a push pin. And the rest are Christmas trees. Snap all those in. And now we're back to the door. This is the left rear door. So we'll unbolt our regulator. These come out a little bit differently. Put the window down, pull out our little block here, unbolt the window channel. We'll slide the window up. And struggle. And realize we have to pull the whole channel out of there. So we'll unbolt the bottom of it, move it around until it falls down in the door, and pull our glass out. Now we can put our channel back in there. This piece of channel actually sits right on top of the channel that's in the door that was in our way. So we're going to leave that lower piece out. We'll drop our glass back in there and then slide it forward, and then we can put that rear channel back in. So we put the window up to the top, just taped it up, pull our grab handle bracket and speaker off, and pull the water barrier down. Oh, there's that window channel at the bottom. It's actually a window track down here. So we'll get that line back up where it belongs and put the bolts back in it. Tighten it down. Now we'll put our cavity wax in the bottom seam, since everything's apart anyway. Put our water barrier back up. Snap our speaker in, bolt it in. Put the grab handle bracket back on there. Now onto the outside door handle. Gasket first, Handle second. Push the tab out so we can clip it in. And cap goes on last. Tighten it down. Done. Put our inside trim around the top. Run our wires through the door, plug in our handle, line up the door lock. Clip in our door panel. We did bolt our window to the regulator. That's the camera guy didn't think you needed to see that. Put all our screws back in there, caps back on, and we put our belt molding on the outside. Back slides in and then snaps down. And one screw up in the front. The torque specs for this is 8 squeaks plus an 1/8 turn. Now we're up on the A-pillar. We'll run our drain tube for our sunroof. It goes through the firewall. So we're going to route it down there, plug it into the firewall, then clip it into the pillar so we get to the top. Then we'll connect it to the sunroof assembly. Okay, so I have a problem. I can't just leave 3 doors waxed and 1 not. So I'll give you a detailed look at how to take these doors apart as an excuse to cavity wax this other door. So first we'll pull the grab handle cover off and the 2 screws inside. 1 more behind the handle. One in the bottom. Pop the window switch up. Then unplug it. And tear the door panel off. Lift it up. Disconnect the door handle. Get the lock out of there. And you know how this goes. Pull the grab handle bracket off. Pull the water barrier down. Get our wax in that bottom seam. With our inside of the door cam, you can see what I'm doing. Kinda. Some jerk's got the light in there so you can't see anything. But he can, and that's what's important. We're not trying to coat the whole inside of the door, just the seam. Get a little bit on the back and then just kind of let it run down. Now we can pull the window sweep out. And we can see these clips across the top and pop those out. Put our water barrier back up. And our grab handle bracket back in. Bolt it all down. Put the little clips on that we just took off our door panel a couple seconds ago. And slide our window sweep in there. Reconnect our door handle cable. Route our wires for our window switch. And snap the door panel up there. Put our 1 bolt in the bottom end, 1 behind the door handle, and put the little cover on. Plug in our window switch, snap it down. 2 screws in our grab handle. And a little cap. Slides in the front, clips into the back. Now I ordered another pizza. Didn't get a pizza, but I did get some help. We're going to slide the headliner back. Try not to bend it in half. Snap it in. It has Velcro that goes around the sunroof opening. Now we'll put a couple screws in our sun visor clips in the front. Route the wire through for the 3rd brake light cargo lamp. Clip the headliner in the back. Then clip the dome light in. Now we can put all the grab handles in on the headliner. Or oak handles. Do the right front. Bolt them in, close the little caps. Just go all the way around, do the same thing. Now we'll run the wiring harness down the A-pillar, clip it into its little brackets. And now you have to get this mess down behind the dash. First it has to go on the other side of the drain tube. Had to pull some of the locks off the bigger plugs because they won't actually fit back there. And now we're going to find something else to do because I really am not looking forward to that. So we'll put our sun visors in. We'll plug them in and put our screws in. If you're wondering how I decide on the method of reassembly, everything's in a big box and I kind of just start pulling stuff out and putting it on. Some stuff has to go before others, but for the most part, you can pretty much put it together any way you want. So after we screwed in our sun visors, we'll put our little cap on that covers up the screws. Just snaps in. And we'll put the one on the driver's side that we forgot because it was at the bottom of the box. So now it's time to run those wires down along the dash. A screwdriver will kind of poke it down because you can't get your fingers in there. You can't even see part of it. And when we get down far enough, we can run some of it with our hands, reach way up in there. It does help when you have somebody up top kind of feeding it around because you have to go forward and backwards. My arms aren't long enough to do both from the bottom. And this took far longer than I care to admit. Hopefully on the next one of these trucks, I don't have to pull the headliner. Because so far, every single one of these trucks I've done, I've had to pull the headliner for one reason or another. So our wires are in there. It's time to put the top trim panel on the dash. Lock in our sunlight sensor. Line up the tabs. Clip it all in. Now we can put our A-pillar trim on. The bottom tabs slide into that trim piece. There's one clip in the top, 2 bolts in the grab handles, and snap the little caps on. Same thing on the driver's side. Slide into the dash, clip it in, bolt it in. This truck has a lot of grab handles. We'll put the trim cover on the side of the dash and never speak of that horrible wiring harness again. We'll put our filler brackets on the front of our fenders. Bolt in the back with our electric ratchet. In the front we need something a little shorter. Can't get the electric ratchet in there. On the driver's side, we got a brand new bracket. So we'll take that out of its little bag and assemble it the same way. Now to continue our randomness, we'll go to our B-pillar trim. Run the seatbelt through it. Clip in the top. Snap in the bottom. Couple bolts in. You guessed it, the grab handle. Put little caps back on. Now you put the bottom trim in. Slide in the alignment pins, clip it in. Pull the door gasket out that's wedged underneath it. Slide our seatbelt through the seat. Start our bolt and tighten it up. Snap in a little grommet and onto our B-pillar trim on the other side. Put the seatbelt in there. Line up the tabs and the seatbelt. Bolt in the grab handle, put in our caps. Lower trim, line up the pins, snap it in. Drop our seatbelt on there, bolt it in, snap the grommet in. Now we can snap our sill plates in, slide it up in the front, snap it in, and snap it in across the bottom. Make sure you use your sill plate installation tool. I'll put the moldings across the top. They slide in the back. And all those little clips that we put back in our molding just snap right on. Put our headlight in. Plug it in. Set it up there. Try not to drop it while we go find the bolts. And bolt it in. Now onto the back glass. Put our urethane around it. Usually I put the urethane on the truck itself. The guy that took the window out kind of chewed up the weather stripping a little bit, so I want to make sure I get a good seal on it. Go all the way around. Then when you get to the bottom, go up on the inside. That way, if for some reason the urethane doesn't join together, the truck's going to have to be upside down to leak. Oh, now we're going to put the window in. Try not to get our hands in the urethane. Because if you think never sees is bad, this stuff's worse. So we'll set it in. There's usually alignment tabs on it, but when you take it out, sometimes they don't survive. So you got to be careful putting it in. I did put a piece of masking tape and paper down underneath it, so I didn't get urethane everywhere. I'm no expert at windows, so to make sure I don't screw it up, we went through a little extra precaution. The part about windows I do get right, they don't leak. That's what's important. So put some masking tape on it to hold our window where it belongs while that urethane sets up. We'll let the glass guys install the windshield since we're getting a new one anyway. Since I'm poor, I'll install the back one myself. So now we can put the motor back in for the window. Start the nuts and tighten them up. We'll plug it in, route the wiring harness, put a little cap in there, holds the insulation and the cables in there. Bolt in the ground for our defroster. And we'll put the trim up across the bottom. Snap it in. And put our seatbelt cover on. Now we'll put the molding across the roof on the driver's side. This came off our used roof. Put the C-pillar trim in. Guess that other molding was on top of it in the box. The bolt in the top. Put the little cap on. One push pin in the back. Bolt in our seat belt on the bottom. Now we're going to do the same thing on the driver's side. Run our seat belt in there. There's a couple of alignment pins. Get it lined up. Snap it in. Put the screw on the top and put the cap over that. And there's one little piece on the outside of the back panel for the cab. It covers up the defroster wire. Now we're ready to put our seat in there. Do the driver's side since it's the heavy one. Get it out of the way. Drop our seatbelt in there. Lift it up. Slide it down the back of the cab so that it locks into those bars. I'm going to move the seats around at the bottom. Get the feet to line up with the studs that are in the floor. Make sure our seatbelt's not twisted before we go bolt it in. Now we'll do the little seat. Slide it down, get those tabs to engage. Make sure they're in there. Now we can bolt the two seats together. And start running all our bolts down and hold these things to the floor. Now we can install the third brake light, plug it in, put our two screws in there. Did put a little extra silicone around the outside, make sure it doesn't leak, because these things are pretty much one-time use. Of course, the next guy is going to have a little bit of a struggle getting it off, but hopefully I'm not going to be that next guy. But you know I will. Once that's done, we can go up to the front. Our bracket's a little bent from where the pole hit it. The bumper bracket itself is okay. It's actually the bracket that's on the frame. So we're going to need to pull it out a little bit. We'll use our mobile frame rack for that. We'll put a piece of steel in there where the bumper itself bolts to on the bracket. And we'll start pulling it forward. The bottom's where it belongs. It's just rocked back at the top a little bit. So we're going to pull it out. But because the bolt hole's on the outside, it's actually pulling the outside of the bracket and not the inside. So we're going to put another come along on the inside. So we can pull this bracket all the way across. Make it move equally across the top instead of out at just one side. Keep pulling it. Since everything's in the way and we can't hammer it, we're just going to over pull a little bit. And when we release it, it'll go back where it belongs. That would be the same as if we pulled it and then hammered it to stress relieve it. Just do a little over pull. So now our bracket matches the other side. And hopefully our bumper is going to fit. We'll put the headlight in the driver's side. This is a reconditioned headlight. It was much cheaper than a new one. And I don't think I was going to be able to reuse the original. Couldn't put Humpty back together. So we'll plug it in, snap it in, and put all our bolts in. Now that our bumper bracket is straight, and I ordered a pizza so I can get some help a little bit later, we'll start changing over everything on our bumper. So we'll pull the bracket out of the passenger side. We're going to use this bracket. We'll pull the fog light out. We'll pull the bracket out of the driver's side. We did get a new bracket for this side because it is collapsed. And while I could probably straighten it, I decided just to replace it. Pull the baffle out. Unplug all of our parking sensors. And take the harness and the baffle out together. Now we'll unclip all the bezels for the parking sensors. Squeeze the tabs, snap them out. Reinstall them in our new bumper. And that one's not going all the way in because the stand is behind it. So we'll lift it up and snap it in. Now you pull the step pad off the top and put it on our new bumper. Just clip it all in all the way across. with our step head installation tool. Snap in the little retainers on the two ends. Pull all of our J-nuts off our old bumper. Unbolt the tow hook bezel. And use our patented J-nut removal tool. It's not just for trim clips anymore. Clip all the J-nuts in. The air deflector for the bottom comes with new J-nuts, but it doesn't come with new bolts, so we need to save all of our bolts. We'll hold the J-nut with the pliers, and then unbolt them. Using your fingers for this gets a little painful sometimes, for the J-nuts of course. We have our bracket for the bottom of the license plate. That can go in the pile. Pull a little clip out and launch it. And our skid plate is out. At least GM thinks it's a skid plate. Pull the bezels out for the tow hook. And we'll pull the rest of our J-nuts off here. If you're playing the J-nut drinking game, you're pretty hammered right about now. Snap all of our J-nuts on. Put our bezels in for our tow hooks. And put our brand new skid plate on. This stupid little piece of chrome plated plastic costs more than the steel bumper. I guess that only makes sense because I think the chrome plated plastic's actually stronger. So we'll bolt it in. Drop our baffle in and wiring harness. Clip our wiring harness in. Put our bolts in. And we can put the air deflector on the bottom. Run all the bolts in. See, I do learn. After forgetting to put this on first, on the last bumper, I got it right this time. Made my life much easier. So now we can put our fog light in. We have a whole new assembly for the driver's side since our old one was destroyed. The light itself was good, but the bracket and the bezel were no good. Put our original back in the passenger side. There's a tab on the top and kind of rotates up. Then bolt it in. Now we can put our brackets on. We have our new bracket on the driver's side. Snap the wiring harness into it. And start bolting it in. Plug in our fog light. Now we can put our bracket in our passenger side. This is our original bracket. Should make the clean freaks happy, because it's clean. I didn't even clean it, but it's clean. Plug in our fog lights. Put our little air baffle in here. So our windshield was installed, and our pizza's not here. So it's time to start putting the windshield back together. Snap in the camera and bracket. That's why I saved the whole bracket, because this one didn't come with one. Plug in our rear view mirror. Slide it into the tab and tighten it up. Plug in our camera and then put the bezel over the top. Snap it in. There's one little trim piece that goes on the top of that. Snap that in. Now we put our cowl screen in. Weasel it between the two hinges. Then it has to slide up underneath the windshield. There's some tabs that lock in underneath it. So we'll get those engaged. And we'll put our push pins across the front end. If you mix these up like I do a lot, they're marked. This one's DS for driver's side. That one's PS for passenger side. Now we can install our wiper arms. There are little marks on the bottom of the windshield to let you know where they go, but they don't always line everything up perfectly. So we'll bolt them in and we'll check them. Snap the washer hose into the fender, then reconnect the washer hose. Close our hood. Now check to make sure our wipers aren't flying off the windshield and that our washers work. We're going to need all that for our safety test. Snap in a little trim pieces on the outer edges of the cowl screen. And we can put our antenna in. We use our adjustable torque wrench. We'll put our cap on the other side. No antenna on this side. Snaps into the fender, then snaps into the cowl screen itself. Now I can put the fillers under the headlights. Slides in from the side. You can use your bumper installation tool to snap it in. There's one bolt. Do the same thing on the passenger side. Slide it back in and snap it into its tabs. Then put the bolt in. I'll put the sill plate in. This is the left rear. Just line it up, snap it down. Same thing on the right side. Now back to the bumper. We'll put our license plate cover on. We'll bolt it in. Bolts in from the back. I'm not sure how much fun that is to take off when it's on the truck. I actually never had to. The pizza girl arrived. Pizza didn't. But at least she's here for the heavy lifting. This bumper is not light. I guess Playdonium is dense. So we'll put our bolts in. Didn't quite line up, so we'll move the bumper around. We'll get the bolt started. All 4 of them. Then we'll move the bumper around. Hopefully our bracket's in the right spot. There's a tiny bit of adjustment. So we're going to use a little bit of it here. Pull the bumper over. Looking pretty good. We'll try tightening it down. Sometimes when you tighten it down, it'll pull the bumper out of alignment. Hopefully, it stays in the right spot. Tighten up the other side. We'll tighten up our brackets in the back. And our tow hook is a little bent. I think they used it to lift the truck up when they towed it. And despite their name, they don't work so well for towing. So we're going to bend it down, line it up with the other side. And we're going to replace those broken clips that were on our grill. Another part that I stole off the leftover parts for the mistake truck. So when our broken clips are replaced, we'll snap our grill up there. I'd much rather replace clips than the grill itself. These grills aren't cheap. Pay a lot of money for chrome plated plastic. Snap all of our clips in. And put our 4 bolts across the top. Drop our closeout panel in there. This one comes pre-cracked, a little crack in the edge of it where the pole hit it, but it's my truck and I don't mind. Besides, there's a recall on this truck. It's going to the dealer and they're going to end up drilling a hole in it to screw the block heater into it. So maybe I'll replace it after they're done making holes in my closeout panel. Or maybe that crack is just going to stay in there until the next time it gets wrecked. So we have our truck basically all reassembled. There's a couple little odds and ends we still have to finish up. we'll get to those next time. We also have to get to our mechanical work. Yeah, there's mechanical work on a pretty much brand new truck. We got a nasty camera issue going on up in that left front. We'll definitely have to take care of that. And most important, we're going to find out what's in our console. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.